Hi. So I'm going to read from a book called The Cloak of Night and Daggers. It is the third book in a trilogy that I think is one of my top fantasy trilogies of all time. It's called the 12 Treasures series. It is incredible. The first book is, I think, one of the finest examples of urban fantasy I've ever read, and the next two are just a beautiful subversion of a lot of common fantasy tropes. It is by an author named Rosemary Edghill. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. And here we go. Oh, quick disclaimer. This being a fantasy book written in like the 90s, the names are tricky. I'm gonna do my best. She had the cup. She, Fleur Jusserand of the House of the Silver Silences. This was the moment she'd yearned for since her 16th birthday. She had it. Line Fleur's treasure in Line Fleur's hands once more. 2 months ago, and Greyroot would still be alive. 1 month ago, and she would not have seen Fox lose the extra cup in the Vale of Stars. A fortnight, 2 weeks ago, and she would not know what she knew now, that Melior had been right, and Balajunt still plotted against the Seven Houses, even though he had won the High King's seat. And had Melior only died before they'd reached him, she would not be standing here now before two Mudborn, about to dare the cup's magic and fail. Heal him, Melior's Iron World heart twin had said, but Jusserand knew that the cup's power relied upon its bearer, and she knew that there was no health in her. She stared down into the golden bowl, while a soft inner voice urged her to take the cup and the sword and go. Line Rohannan would be grateful and would ask no questions about Baron Rohannan so long as Rohannan's treasure was safe, and Jusserand would never be asked to wield the cup again, only to present it at the king-making and secure her line. Let him die. At least let it be her choice and not her failure. Jusserand glanced up and met Fox's eyes. They were the odd pale blue of Mudborn eyes, the opaque milky color of the winter sky. He watched her patiently, as if he knew what it was to be good at very many things and then be asked to do something else entirely, as if he knew what it was like to be so empty. His eyes were not like Saint's eyes. Saint's eyes were dark and brilliant, almost an elfin blue. He had written into the Lossel swarm. All she knew was that danger followed them, and so she had sent him to deal with it. And he was gone, and he had gone, Ruth's champion, trusting Jusserand to care for her just as he would have, leaving Ruth in her charge as if he believed she could, honor even so implicit an oath, believing that after so many years, Jusserand could still nurture as well as destroy. I killed my first man when I was 12. She'd always said that, but it wasn't really true. Almost from the time she'd learned to walk, she'd followed her nurse onto the battlefields, helping to finish the enemy wounded. Almost her first conscious memory was of watching the lifelight fade from an enemy soldier's eyes. War had been her life, her guardianship of the cup only another kind of war. To live chaste and inviolate was no hardship, she had felt. She had nothing left to give to a lover, to a family. There was no life in her. No life, no health, no healing. Death. Now that was easy. She felt it flow through her fingertips, collecting in the bottom of the cup. A sullen green-black fire, the color of death and pain and betrayal. All three of them could drink from it, and then, no. Pure self-interested terror drove the darkness away. For a moment. Was that all that was left of Fleur Jusserand of the House of the Silver Silences? A darkness that would grow darker still until there was no light left anywhere? The cup was empty again, as if it had never begun to fill. There must be something else left in her. Jusserand sought through all her memories for it, and all she could find was the thought that Saint had trusted her to keep Ruth alive. She clung to that thought, using it like a guiding thread to lead her to others. Tiny, fleeting things. Her promise to Fox to spare his comrade's life. The pride she had felt in Greyroot's accomplishments. Why couldn't you have lived? If Greyroot had lived, this would be so easy. He had always believed in her, in the bright honor that she herself had known was a matter of unmet temptation. With every breath she took, she mourned his death. As Ruth would mourn Melior's. Before all politics and statecraft, there was this. If Melior died, Ruth would grieve. There was so much pain in the world. It was such a small thing to end one grief before it began. Jocelyn let her mind fill with death once more, but this time she concentrated on the rage of the living left behind, on the unremitting pain that proceeded from that death. She let the fire of grief fill her, the denial of death, and through it, the denial of grief. And the chalice filled once more, this time with life.